Daniel, welcome to Naples Comic Con. It's your first time in Naples, but not your first time in Italy.
That's correct. Luca, 3 years ago, 2019. Great time. First time in Italy then.
To our Italian friends, tell us about the genesis of this project and how did the love for professional wrestling come by?
So, in 2018, early 2018, I had my first kid. Her name is Fiona. Beautiful, amazing. Did not sleep. Did not sleep. So I was rocking her most of the time before she'd go to sleep. And she wouldn't necessarily cry, she just would not sleep. You know, you put her down and she starts crying for hours. So I watched a lot of TV, rocking Fiona. And I started getting bored of like documentaries and movies, and some of my friends and comic book peers were very into New Japan Pro Wrestling at the time. So I was like, let me just give this a try. And this now was in summer 2018. The G1 Climax, number 28, was happening at the time. Back when Kenny Omega was still in New Japan and Kota Ibushi was rocking and rolling. And I saw Kota Ibushi versus Tomohiro Ishii in the G1 28. Then it was like, I had kind of my little foot in the water, and when I saw that match, I was an instant fan. So I actually found my love of pro wrestling pretty recently, 2018, and I found it through Japanese wrestling, not necessarily WWE or what have you. And when some of the stars from New Japan came over to the States to make AEW, I followed that religiously, and that through AEW I found my way kind of back into old school pro wrestling, like the territorial wrestling from the South and all over the country of the United States, and the golden age of WWE in the 90s and so on. But all of that love and passion for pro wrestling, I kind of wanted to translate into a comic book, because that's what I do, and I was trying to figure out the right way to do it. So, what you have here is Do a Powerbomb, and Do a Powerbomb is a marriage of not only professional wrestling, but my love of genre fiction, like fantasy and science fiction. And, you know, I wanted to make sure when I made a pro wrestling comic that I did not just cater to pro wrestling fans, but also to comic book fans. Anybody off the street, I feel, could pick up Do a Powerbomb, understand it, enjoy it, and maybe have an emotional moment with it. That's the goal.
Talking about the beauty of pro wrestling is the storytelling, because you can have a 5-star match and with a story you can build up. So, storytelling for comics and for wrestling, how was your approach for storytelling in writing comics, and how was your approach in writing this particular comic?
So, I'll talk about how I kind of approached showing pro wrestling with the visuals. So, at least in the States, pro wrestling comics, you know, for the most part, they do not necessarily highlight the actual fighting in a match, you know. But this is like one of the best parts, especially for wrestlers who are talented inside the ring. I wanted to show the excitement and energy and power that you see in pro wrestling when you turn on television. You know, so in American comics, it's not really highlighted. It's just kind of about the promos, and there might be just a few panels of people flying in the air, giving an elbow, but it's not really broken down in a way that's like you can sink your teeth into. So with Do a Powerbomb, I'm really trying to break down step by step these sequences and these moves. So when you see like a tombstone pile driver, for instance, like you understand what's going on. Because even if like a person who doesn't know wrestling sees a photograph of a tombstone, it kind of looks like somebody is putting their crotch in somebody else's, you know, head or whatever, right? It's hard to make understand. But if you see the move on television animated, you're like, that looks awesome. That was the goal with Do a Powerbomb, just make sure people understood and could feel the impact of all the moves, and then also give an emotional storyline that people could be invested in as well.
Do you have a particular favorite wrestler from New Japan AEW, and there was any sort of inspiration, or it was a total blank from the beginning, no inspiration from all existing wrestlers?
I was kind of taking from all over pro wrestling, but a lot of Japanese pro wrestling still. So a big influence in Do a Powerbomb, because there is a lady wrestler, who's one of the main characters, Mona Steel Rose. I was watching a lot of All Japan women's matches from the 90s. Oh, incredible. Aja Kong, Manami Toyota, I mean there's millions, those are the two big ones. They had a huge kind of influence on the story, and actually There's a manga that I tracked down, very rare. It's called Burning Women's Wrestling, and it was 3 volumes, and it was the storylines that were actually happening in All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling in like manga form. So they kind of like took from the actual matches. And you know, Manami Toyota's like, I don't remember the name, but her suplex, like a really complex suplex, you know, they illustrate that in the book, and it's like this 2-page spread, and there's like a big, they illustrate like a tidal wave behind to like show the power of it. That was a Burning Women's Wrestling, big influence on Do a Powerbomb. If you can find it, you should Google image it. Burning Women's Wrestling. It's amazing.
Talking about your role with AW, I don't know if you wrote the news, but AW will be coming to the UK this summer, Wembley Stadium.
So exciting.
Somebody think they are trying too hard because it's too hard to sell a stadium like that.
Yeah.
Do you think they can do it?
Oh, they can do it. Especially if they give us some of these big matches. Like, some of these big matches. I want to see Ospreay, Omega at Wembley. Let's make it happen. AEW, I'm looking at you.
Okay. Tony Khan, this is for you. Ospreay versus Omega 2 in Wembley.
Also, redo a Powerbomb.
Yeah, Powerbomb.
I love you.
And that's one question because there's a running joke in Italy. You are from Chicago. There's a running joke in Italy that CM Punk will come back. Are you a fan of CM Punk or?
You know CM Punk's from Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I am very frustrated with CM Punk. Kenny Omega is one of my absolute favorite pro wrestlers of all time. AEW got me through the pandemic. I mean, without wrestling during the pandemic, especially AEW every Wednesday, there was nothing for me to look forward to. My spirit, my soul, my anxiety about the world, about coronavirus, I was in a dark place, and it was AEW that was one of the few. It was my family, you know, my kid, my wife, a few friends, very few. You know, you remember what it was like. Walks outdoors, and AEW, and to see CM Punk at that press conference take a big old shit on this company that, you know, saved me during the pandemic. It really did. It makes me kind of emotional talking about it, actually, because it was. So I mean, I know it's a company; they're there to make money and stuff, but yeah, the people that built that company from the ground up, they kept it going during some of the hardest times that pro wrestling has ever seen, and for CM Punk to disrespect it that way, I'd love an apology if he does come back. I don't know if I'm going to get it. I respect you, CM Punk, but you know, we got some shit to work out.
Okay.
I hope that's okay.
Yeah,
to say.
It's okay. We can do and say whatever you want.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Okay. So, last question, Daniel. Does your love for professional wrestling in comic book ends with Do a Powerbomb, or are you planning on writing something more with wrestling?
I might do a prequel at some point, like a short prequel of Do a Powerbomb having to do with Cobra Sun's dad. That being said, I've definitely scratched my itch for a while. I've drawn a lot of crowd scenes. I'm ready to take a break.
Okay.
But I'm proud of this.
Okay. Quindi ragazzi, il volume è arrivato anche in Italia con Salda Press, mi raccomando, Do a Powerbomb, Daniel Johnson.